everybody, and welcome to the Cross Guild Chronicles. Shady. Last week we didn't have a name. This week we're back, new and improved. Quick shout out to our guy Brando, helped us out with the name. Cross Guild Chronicles. How you feeling, man?
Feeling good, man. We're making progress. We got a name. We got an intro. We're ready to rock.
Hey, feeling good. I think we got 15 subs on the YouTube channel. Can't complain about that. And then TikTok's doing well, getting some interaction there. That's always great. It's been fun, man. It's been fun. Episode 2 is here. Today, Shady, we're going to tackle the Straw Hat power-ups that'll probably lead to the end of the series. Any initial thoughts before we really dive into this topic?
Well, are we sure we don't want to just talk about basketball this whole episode, man? I mean, your Cavs 10-0, my son's 8-1.
I mean, people are going to look at the thumbnail and like they're going to talk One Piece. Okay, cool. Let's check it out. Oh, Suns and Cavs talk for the next hour. I mean, I'm down for it. The way the Cavs are playing, the way your Suns are playing, you guys are I would say the best clutch team in the league right now. We're blowing teams out. We're playing a really good brand of basketball under Kenny Atkinson. Both our new coaches are excelling in their current, with the current role. They've got everybody in. I'm excited, man. I'm really excited about basketball right now.
Yep, good time. But as far as initial thoughts on the powers go, I mean, it's always a fun topic. Power scaling, projecting, where are these characters going to end up? Maybe a little bit of headcanon here and there. So should be a nice discussion.
Well, Shady, that leads us into it. Let's start with the Coward Trio. We've seen a couple things happen for these guys post-time skip. We got to finally see Usopp use a little bit of observation hockey when he sniped Sugar. We saw Nami. She's enhanced her attack power with the addition of Zeus. And then Chopper has now full control over Monster Point. Let's start with Chopper. Like you said, we've seen him get control of Monster Point. We've not seen it really used a ton. He was able to combat Queen a little bit, able to land a couple punches. Is there a next level in your mind for Chopper? I know he's probably not meant to be a combatant long term, but he's probably going to have to fight here and there going forward. What is the next step for Chopper? What's an upgrade you'd like to see?
For sure. And yeah, it's interesting because the first thing that comes to your mind is probably Awakening, given that, he's a Zoan. He's already unlocked transformations. Now, obviously, some of that is via Rumble Ball, like artificially, right? So the question, I guess, is does Chopper have what it takes to have his mind catch up to his powers, which is how Awakening is described, right? Yeah. And I hope so, because I just feel like an Awakening to do an even greater, I don't know, is there a bigger form than Monster Point? Like,
that's what I was trying to figure out. That's what I was trying to figure out. Could they combine the power of Monster Point with potentially his maybe his precision attack form? Is there a way he can incorporate both? I had the same thing when I was trying to go through it. I think the easy answer also, JD, would be armament hockey. If we could get him to that level, which we'll definitely touch on with a lot of people in this conversation. But I was thinking the same thing. Can we get Chopper and Awakening that maybe combines two forms to make, hey, this is the top tier of Chopper that we're going to get? The Rumble Balls, like you said, I thought that ingenuity is awesome. So I'm not going to try to take anything. And then him being able to help Beepo unleash his Sulong form, also very cool. So I think Chopper definitely has some ingenuity he can apply there. I'm just wondering what is the next step, because at some point he's going to have to fight a San Juan Wolf. He's going to have to fight one of these larger characters, most likely, because of Monster Point. But can we maybe get a build-up one level higher than Monster Point would be my next level for Chopper.
For sure, yeah.
And like you said, it's hard to picture what is next, but there's got to be maybe a serious Chopper, because now that he can keep his personality in Monster Point, we almost need him to have a more locked-in version. But again, I was always a big Monster Point fan, so I'm all for making that a better form. Next on the list, I think this one gets interesting because of where we are in the story. Let's talk about Usopp. Yeah. For me, I'm going to kick this off so you potentially don't steal it. We've got to have him have a good arc, strong arc here. There's so much build up. He loves the warrior culture of the Giants. He loves all that stuff. Let me ask you this. What about a weapon upgrade from the Tree of Adam, or the same wood that was used to build the Sunny. We know it's extremely durable. We know all that information. What if his next slingshot upgrade is a piece of wood from there, potentially giving him higher release, quicker speeds? What are your thoughts on that?
No, absolutely. That would be fantastic. I think also getting a gun at some point, not only for
Do you
aesthetic
think he's
purposes.
going to do that because of his dad, though? I actually would like to talk to you about this for a second. Do you think because his dad left him and all that, does he maybe stay away from guns for that reason?
Yeah, I mean it's possible, but he
I
does
don't
have a
hate it.
certain. Yeah. He has a certain level of admiration and respect for him. So I don't know, like, if that would drive him away in that regard or make him want to have the gun even more. But I just think in general, the concept of hockey bullets, or however, like the Ben Beckmans and the Yassops fight, would be a good addition to his arsenal. And kind of also another point that you brought up the Tree of Adam and whatnot. I think just in general, getting plants from Elbath and upgrading his plant arsenal with I don't know, what do they have, like giant plants and giant stuff there. So I'm sure something he can use in his bag from Elbath, just in general.
Yeah, and then I was going to take it one step further. We know he has observation hockey. I would almost like to see him have, I'm not going to go Katakuri level, but maybe a second ahead. And that would just step up his sniping ability to another level. We see that some other snipers probably have a stronger shot, but if he was able to get his shot off faster and more accurately because of next level of observation hockey, I think that helps a lot too. There's got to be a moment here where he kind of puts it all together and really, really goes off, in my opinion, here at Elbath.
No, absolutely, man. I totally agree with you on the observation hockey. I think it also could be a little bit different in the sense of so when he unlocks it against Sugar, right, he's sensing the spirits. It's almost like a range. And I feel like as a sniper, him having just the keenest eye and just having an incredible range of detection, kind of like what I think of is Hunter x Hunter in the Chimera Ant arc when Pito was using N and just detecting the whole entire place. I want Usopp to have an incredible range so that when they're on the ship, he should be able to sense something from so far away and just knock it out, right?
For sure.
And of course, something like that is probably going to be needed to beat what's his name, Von Auger, who now has the teleportation abilities. So
yeah, and that's actually really good that you said that. It's I don't know. Are you think in my mind when you're kind of saying that's kind of like a radar, like a mental radar, and you could in Usopp's head you could see him teleporting from spot to spot, boom,
exactly.
boom, boom. That right there, in my mind, would be so epic. And if they get a final fight, he's hitting him from spot to spot. And he's like, how can I get around this? It is just Usopp with his observation hockey going crazy. I think that's
1,000%.
really, really well said. So potentially a weapon upgrade, a next level of hockey. The arsenal definitely needs to get a little bit stronger going forward with what we're going to be dealing with. I think Usopp is in for a big arc, and I'm hoping that continues for him.
Lots of potential with him.
Yeah, there really is. Next, we're going to have Nami. We know Nami, obviously Zeus is a huge upgrade, a potential Yonko level attack. This is tough because where does Nami go from here?
It is tough.
She's usually able to land a nice attack on people, but there's not really ever an ability to follow up. It's a hit and run type tactic. Well, Zeus was a great upgrade for her because she really did not have anything pre-Zeus. It was, a lot of smoke and mirrors, with the climb attack. Shady, my question is, would you be against her getting some kind of weather devil fruit, something like that to give her a next level? I know, she's never talked about, she's never swam or anything like that to hold her back from it. What would you think if Nami had a devil fruit?
Yeah, I've thought of this before in the past, and I've heard people talk about this as well, because she is obviously one of the weaker characters, and a devil fruit buff might be exactly what's needed in order to get her to that Yonko commander tier, quote unquote. I do think it is kind of a drastic change, though, at this point in the story. It's just so far down the line. It's like giving a character a devil fruit, that changes the complete makeup of the character, right? So
it would have to be a weather fruit, though, would it not? It would have to be something that ties into her she's always been about the weather. She's always the navigation, all that kind of stuff. And I couldn't really come up with one besides, Enel's fruit, something like that, potentially. Maybe if Dragon gets killed by Emu, maybe. But I don't see her getting Hockey either, though. So it's kind of hard to say what's her next step because she's not a hand-to-hand fighter that's potentially going to get to that level. So I thought her upgrade was very difficult. Climb attack upgrade, I think we're probably past that point now that she has Zeus. So I thought Nami was difficult. Was there anything that came to your mind for her?
I actually did like observation hockey just because I feel like everybody should have it. So it's kind of just a general statement, but that ties into like predicting the weather and stuff like that. So not only for combat, but just would make sense for her character in general. I have also heard people talk about Monet's devil fruit, the snow one.
Ooh. I don't hate her getting an upgrade at all. I think that it was fair that you said that it's a little late in the game for it, but we're also getting in the part of the game where everything is going to help in these potential wars.
For sure.
I don't think we can really afford to have, Usopp and Nami running away from fights. Like I feel like we're getting to the point where, if they get cornered, yes, they will turn and fight, but that's still like the last resort. We're getting to the point where we're potentially needing them to contribute a little bit more, even in battle. So I'm glad you said that, but there's some avenues for Nami here to get stronger. It's just, I think Zeus was such a big upgrade that, I don't know how much further we can go with her. Out of the Coward trio, who is Usopp the person you want to see upgrade the most?
Undoubtedly.
Yeah. I think he's an easy one out of this group because we've waited a long time. Like Dressrosa, we saw him finally do something big. It's about time. So let's transition though to the middle trio. Obviously, we've got Frankie, Brooke, Robin. Robin, we saw recently. We get to see her demon form. Her demon form was really, really cool. Brooke, I wouldn't say we've seen any upgrades, but we've just seen him be a badass for a few arcs now. And, standing up and cutting Big Mom's soul is pretty damn impressive. Yeah. And then Frankie, I don't think it's been an upgrade, but he finally is getting to flex also. Like we saw him.
He's getting the feats. Exactly.
We saw him beat up the Triceratops. We saw him not back down to Big Mom when they came face to face, even though, using the car was funny. But, we're seeing these guys headed in the right direction. In my opinion, all three, it's an easy answer for these three, but I would love to dive in deeper than, they should all get armament hockey. Yes, of course. That's an easy upgrade for all three, and I think all three are deserving of it. Are you on the same boat?
I am on the same boat, yes. I think particularly when it comes to armament hockey, we're thinking like Robin and Brooke. I think Brooke because just for the simple fact that he is a swordsman, and swordsmen are known for, coating their swords, right? So I think we just spent a whole entire arc learning about the advanced armament. So, I mean, of course, I don't know if Brooke's going to get the advanced armament, but just being able to coat his sword would do wonders. And all three of them already scale to around the flying 6 level right now. So that next jump to like beating the lower tier Blackbeard commanders is perfectly within range. So hockey could be that difference, right?
So, and this is why I think Frankie probably won't get it, is because we had that perfect opportunity that we talked about before with Luffy and Bonnie and him all punching Saturn at the same time. That was the perfect chance for Oda to just say, boom, hockey right here. But we didn't get it. So, and I feel like Robin, we get the demon form. It felt obvious that hockey was going to be used there, and it wasn't. That was so crazy. She trains with the revolutionaries. How does that not worthy of hockey? That kind of blew my mind. And I'm going to take it one step further here with Brooke. This is something I talked about on TikTok. It got some fun interaction and stuff like that. Let me lay it out for you. If Brooke's awakening, and you got it ties into the souls and everything like that, is a Grim Reaper type form.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the next level. It's a scythe. It takes the taking of the souls to the next level. It's a massive buff in terms of power. If you remember, and this might be a stretch, and you can tell me if it is, Zoro saw a figure, the Grim Reaper, it looked just like Brooke. To me, that would be fantastic foreshadowing if his awakening was a Grim Reaper form. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that would be interesting. I guess what I would wonder is, since he's a Paramecia type fruit, is this going to be able to infect the environment in some way? How does it occur? right? Because I guess the whole premise of the revive fruit is that the soul has to find its way back to the human itself. So I guess the first thing I think of when I think of an awakening, I do like the idea of having a Grim Reaper form for sure. But what I'm thinking is, can he affect the souls of the environment? Can he like call upon powers of other souls or something in that regard, right? Even the ice power is intertwined with that because he calls upon the cold of the underworld for his cuts. So I don't know, a lot of creativity with this fruit because again, originally it's just a revive fruit, but now he's doing all this like astral projection.
Exactly. He takes it to a different level. And I feel like the Grim Reaper is so tied in with souls and death and everything that Brooks and kind of with, and he needs one more level. He needs another level to in my opinion. So I was thinking, you know, it kind of ties in with his character and all that. And Zoro seeing the Grim Reaper and it looked like Brooke. So that was kind of my thing. Yeah. For Frankie, is there anything he can do to take the next step, in your opinion?
So the first thing I thought of was when Sanji's fighting against Queen and Queen shooting the laser beams. I think it's chapter like 10, 19 or something. He's like, Frankie needs to get his hands on this. So I don't know. Obviously, little tech boosts here and there, things like that can always be improved upon. You know, he's already a G when it comes to that kind of stuff, right? Yeah. But the one thing that I see as far as an end game Frankie goes is just the ultimate mecha fighter, right? Something even beyond the General Frankie, maybe merging with the Thousand Sunny in some way, because I guess the first thing that comes to mind when it comes to Blackbeard Pirates for me, you mentioned Chopper versus Samwell Wolf. I like Frankie versus Samwell Wolf personally because he's the only one. He's called the Colossal Battleship, first of all. Like that's kind of like what he's known as. I think that's his nickname or whatever. And he's the only one without a ship, obviously, because he just freaking roams the sea freely because he's so damn massive.
Walking in the ocean.
So I don't know, Frankie in like some major mecha form merged with a Thousand Sunny against Samwell Wolf. I like that. That's kind of what I envision as his final form.
Something that just came to me as we were talking through it. Now that we have a version of Vegapunk with them, is there any chance for upgrades there? Potentially,
that's true too.
You know, you kind of combine. You know, he got his. He went to Vegapunk's factory, in the time skip to upgrade to where he is now. Now we have a Vegapunk. I feel like maybe we could take the next level there. That could even tie into your mecha ideas. You know, fixing up the Sunny and making it operational that way. Just an idea, because I feel like if he's not going to be able to have hockey, there's got to be a little bit more for him.
Yeah, for sure.
Robin, to me, the answer was hockey, and we just haven't gotten it. Like, is there any? The demon form is badass as hell. Why, Oda? Why would you just not just let her have it, man? We needed it. But
yeah,
for those three, I like all three. I've been really pretty happy with how they've gone recently. Next on the agenda, we're going to talk Jimbei. Jimbei's an interesting one because, and I'll pose it to you, because in my mind, it's probably pretty close to as good as it's going to get power wise. And he's obviously the oldest of the Straw Hats. He's still a really impressive fighter, but I don't think we're going to get a big boost for him. If there was a boost, what would you think it would be?
Yeah, that's a really good question, man. Because I actually had the similar trail of thought to you in that regard. That he is the pirate veteran. He is the guy who's sailed the seas before as a captain. You know, as a subordinate to Fisher Tiger, he's been through so much. It's like, how many more hockey blooms can this guy get? I don't know. Are we going to see him even top the feat that he had when he fought Ace for 10 days? Like, is that going to be topped?
That's really hard. That's a really hard one to. I mean, he's done a lot of cool stuff. I mean, he one-shotted Moria at Marineford. He saved Luffy from Akainu. He's knocked Big Mom off the ship. He's withstood her soul grab. He was able to mid-diff Who's Who.
Yep.
You know, he's definitely a very important fighter. Law and Kid being blown away when Jimbei showed up, and him being a Straw Hat just shows you how important he is. But unless he's getting the next level of armament and hockey, I don't know where we go. Maybe observation gets a little bit more precise. There's not going to be Conqueror's hockey. It's not right for his character.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, he's going to be right there, that fourth combatant. who's just a fantastic side character who's been through a lot with Luffy and through his own career. For him, I just thought this is probably as close to the ceiling as we're going to get for any Straw Hat, I would say.
Yeah, no doubt. I had a similar thought in that regard as well, that advanced armament hockey would be really cool for him. I think even aesthetically, just with the Fishman karate, just being able to emit hockey like that with the Fishman karate would be super sick. I mean, don't know if I see it happening.
Shark skin plus the next level of hockey would be awesome. And I'm totally with you there. The fact that he was able to break who's fingers with his shark skin was awesome. So I think Jimbei's just in a really good spot as a character and with his power. I mean, yeah, he's the fourth combatant. He's his, I would say he could take and push a Yonko Commander 2 probably to a good fight. Probably wouldn't win, but he could beat most Yonko 3s, I would say.
Yeah.
Or put up a really good fight more than anything. But let's transition to our monster trio.
Yep.
Yeah. We've obviously this is where it gets interesting. This is where we're at. These three are our big time fighters. Zoro, we got to see him with Enma, King of Hell, Gear 5 Luffy. Sanji is now unbreakable. He has his genetics are at the peak of his possibilities. So let's start with Sanji.
Yep.
I guess my question is, how do you keep getting hotter? Like, how does he make his body hotter? Like, what? It's kind of tough because, being invulnerable is a massive upgrade in its own right, and we just saw that happen in Wano. Is buffing up his hockey, buffing up his observation, full control of his body. What is the next step for Sanji for you?
Right. So, like you just said, I would like it to be hockey because that's just how I always prefer people to get stronger. But Oda just doesn't really emphasize his hockey as much as a Zoro and a Luffy, right? Like, he doesn't really get the flashbacks of the hockey training with Mihawk and Rayleigh like they did. You don't really see the on-screen training. Now, obviously, his hockey is getting stronger just from fighting tough battles, but I would like to see him get future sight, honestly, just because he is an observation specialist. So I think taking that next level to future sight would be the common sense thing at this point. Yeah. What do you think about that?
I think, and I'm with you 100% there. We know he has hockey, we know he uses it, but he's always covered by fire, so it's probably not as obvious for us also. Mm-hmm. But we saw him get to use the future sight there when Katakuri shot the jelly bean at him. We need to see more built on top of that, I would say, right?
Yeah, I mean, that is a good feat of observation. I wouldn't say it's like actually future sight.
Not future sight, but it's
a good feat of observation. Is what I would just say, honestly.
But we need to build onto that and see a little bit more.
Right.
There probably should have been times. I know he was dealing with the inner monologue and am I a bad guy? Am I this? Am I that? It would have been nice to see if he could have calmed down and predicted more of Queen's attacks, some stuff like that. Sure. I feel like in the manga, it could be drawn better sometimes, the observation hockey. The only time we really get to see it flex is with Luffy. So it'd be nice to see some other people get shown their observations.
For sure.
But yeah, I think it's got to be hockey bloom for Sanji's the next goal.
Yeah. Who do you have his matchup as in the Blackbeards? I'm kind of curious. Or do you not have a definitive answer?
I was hoping we would do a video on this, so I would save it. I would say down the line, as we get a little bit closer to that, I think that's going to be a fun one. And it may not even be like a 1v1 for all these, but I think it would be fun to kind of, pick and choose who should fight where. So I'm going to save that, but I would like to see him fight. It's interesting because I always thought Lafayette would fight Nami, but I don't know how that works for Nami. So I don't know. It's tough. It's somewhere in there though. Next on our list, we're gonna save this guy for last because of your shirt. Let's talk Luffy then. We'll save the King of Hell for last.
Sure, fair enough. Want me to start? Or you got it?
Do you want 1, 2, 3, and we answer because I feel like our answer should be the same.
Oh, I'm sure it's pretty similar.
All right. 1, 2, 3, stamina.
Rutgers hockey. Up.
Okay. Okay, go ahead. Tell me why.
So that is also on my list too, I will say. Like, obviously, stamina, refining the Nika form, being able to stay in it longer, right? Like, he didn't last in it as long against Kizaru as we would have liked in that form. So that's really the next step. But the reason I said Conqueror's hockey is because that is the key to becoming the pinnacle of the verse, right? As Kaido said, it transcends all. It's the most important power-up in the series. So he has to continue to fight extreme div battles that's going to bloom the hockey, so that way he can eventually be at the top. It's pretty straightforward, right? In that regard.
It's easy, and that's why I picked him second, is because he's got to be able to use gear 5 longer. It's got to happen. I also like what he started to do here in Elbath, using some of his geared attacks in base. I think that shows his growth also.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, Conqueror's Haki. At some point, we saw Shanks, the way he's able to emit it and attack from distance. Luffy's got to be trying to get to that point at some time. Seeing Joy Boy, the way he was able to put Conqueror's Haki into something and it erupt that way. There's so many different more layers that I feel like Luffy can go to. He's already going to be one of the strongest combatants, but if you add stamina and the next couple tiers of Conqueror's Haki, he's likely going to end up as the strongest by the end of the series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt. I mean, yeah.
We saved your guy for last, Zoro. I think there's some interesting avenues for Zoro to go here, because I think the number one will be interesting, but I'm going to let you start here because this is your guy. Where do you see Zoro going next?
Yeah, so I've got a lot. I've got more for him than anybody. I feel like there's been so much laid out as potential power-ups for him, like tons of different avenues. I guess I'll start with the smallest one because it might happen the most recent, and that's the Ikoku style swordsmanship. So like the giant sword slashers, right? I think maybe finally he can get an upgrade over the 1080-pound Phoenix. Obviously, that's monstrous right now, but if he can be doing those big mom slashes, those Dorian Bragi, Ikoku sovereignty, I mean, that'd be the ultimate range attack for him to start.
And now that he's seen it a couple times, I feel like, and like you talked about, he was able to copy Fox style. He was able to copy some of these other styles. I would say once he's probably able to control Enma all the way, we haven't got to see what the next level of that control is. I don't see why he wouldn't be able to have a extremely strong ranged attack like that once he's full go with Enma. I really like that. Is there anything? What's your next one?
So my next one is one that got brought up again in Wano, and that's forging a Black Blade. I feel like that's the most obvious. When he's fighting Gyakumaru, Gyakumaru tells him that Ryuma forged a Black Blade through various battles. Even what's Odin's father's name again, like Sukiyaki or something like that. When he's training with Enma, Sukiyaki says that if Enma became a Black Blade, then it would upgrade to the supreme grade level of blade.
Right.
Obviously, that hasn't happened yet, and we don't know the full extent to what is required to forge a Black Blade. We just know it's combat related.
Yes.
So I feel like that for all of his swords is a very obvious next upgrade.
And that was my number one. It was forging his own Black Blade, because I feel like once you do that, you have ascended to the highest tier possible.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to ask you about this. We know he's got Enma, he's got Wado, he's got Sandai, 2 great grades, 1 A grade. Would there another sword upgrade in your mind come, or is this what he's going with and he has to take those swords to the next level?
Yeah, so I think obviously at this point, Shodai Katetsu is the one that we all have our eyes on, right? He clashes with what's his name? Venus, right? Venus is the guy he clashed with.
Yes, of the Gorosei, yes.
Yeah, Venus Gorosei. And they both acknowledge the Katetsus, right? Maybe a little bit of foreshadowing for a duel down the line. And when it comes to his Sandai Katetsu right now, it's the weakest graded sword in his arsenal. Enma is part of the great grade, and Wado is part of the great grade. Yes. He has no supremes yet, but Sandai is even lower than the fine grade. It's like the 4th tier.
Yeah, it's just A grade. It's just an A grade. Yeah, it's below. Yeah.
So as far as swords go, that's obviously the one that could happen. Now, usually if Zoro is replacing a sword, something kind of is forcing him to exchange the sword, right? He's not just going to get it for no reason. There has to be like a narrative reason for it. So what is that? Who knows? But I'm sure Oda might be cooking something with Shodai down the line.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Obviously, he's had. I wouldn't mind seeing another sword, but I would also like to see a concerted effort on getting these to Black Blades. So that's kind of a toss up for me. Like you said, his battle with Nasuro when they acknowledge each other's sword, the cursed, sword, that kind of stuff. I thought that was really good. Zoro's in a good spot. Zoro's in a really good spot. I mean, I'm excited to see what he does in Elbath personally. See if there's anybody there who he can even match him a little bit. I just don't.
Yeah.
The way the Giants were shown early is going to be so much different than the way they're shown now. I'm really interested to see what happens here with Elbath, with everybody. We've gone through all the Straw Hats. Is there anything power up wise as a unit you want to see? Is there anything else that we can touch on here?
I did want to mention hockey for Zoro too, just because Conqueror's Hockey, keep refining it. Same thing I said with Luffy applies to Zoro in that regard too, since he has advanced Conqueror's Hockey. And then I also kind of wanted to bring up Future Sight because Mihawk seems like his former nickname was the Clairvoyant before Oda changed it to Hawkeyes. Mm-hmm. That kind of implies a very powerful level of observation hockey. And I don't know how Zoro is going to combat that at this point if he doesn't improve his. Now, maybe he goes the Shanks route and learns the ability to negate the Future Sight, right? Because that's Shanks' ability he can literally impose his will in that regard and make people not see the future.
I feel like that feels more like Zoro to me, though. That overwhelming pressure, because you talked about somebody you talked about earlier, Monet, the way he was able to, his beast-like aura, all that kind of stuff. I almost think he's going to negate Future Sight with his overwhelming pressure.
Yeah,
but we know he's been able to feel people out and things like that. With Dressrosa, he was able to feel Fuji. He was able, So I think he's going to have. He definitely has a high level of observation. It's just which route do they want to go with it? But I like that. I like that overwhelming pressure that he exudes. I think that just fits him a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, it would only make sense if Shanks was using that against Mihawk, then Zoro would need to use it against Mihawk, right?
Hey, this works. This is how you slow him down a little bit. No, I mean, like in your mind, like, oh, Shanks, if it works for Shanks, I got to try it. He's,
Yeah, maybe he'll even copy the Divine Departure.
You've been big on that. Now, has he seen it happen though?
No, I'm saying it would have to be an Elbath, of course. But
yeah, so you think Shanks? Sidebar here, and we can get back on track. Do you think Shanks shows up?
Oh yeah, I think at the end he's there for sure.
Interesting, very interesting. There's a lot of good stuff going on. I'm gonna do a chapter review tomorrow on TikTok, so I'm gonna save that for then.
Yeah, we'll talk about that another time. But
yeah, that'll be
fun. Any last thoughts on Monster Trio? I mean, we pretty much covered it all. There's a lot of good avenues. So, Sanji has a very high ceiling, Zoro has a very high ceiling, and Luffy probably has the highest ceiling, like in the verse. So there has to be more power ups at this point.
For sure. Who do you think Zoro's next major opponent will be, and then we'll get out of here?
That's a good question, man. I've been thinking about it, and I don't know on Elbath. I don't think we know enough about the island yet to make a prediction like that, unless maybe he gets some scraps of Loki. Maybe Loki fights a bunch of different people. But obviously I have the Shiryu matchup for the Blackbeard Pirates. I think that's pretty close.
Do you think that comes before a potential Fujitora rematch?
Yeah, I don't really think a Fujitora rematch is happening just because of what his position in the story is. He literally just freed the slaves, so he's clearly opposing the world government. So I have a hard time envisioning how that scenario could happen.
You know who I always wanted to see him fight, just to see kind of like to gauge his power a little bit earlier in the story. I think he's surpassed him now. I always thought a Vista versus Zoro fight would have been interesting, just because of the 2-sword style to the 3-sword style. And while obviously Marineford is scrutinized for different stupid reasons, just he had Mihawk's acknowledgement. It wasn't like he was able, none of that kind of stuff, but he had his acknowledgement. He knew who he was. So I always kind of wanted to see, how Zoro would have matched up against a Vista, but obviously they got ran off the map in the Payback War, and we never heard about that again. So, one of these days we're gonna have a conversation about that, because I would love to ask your opinion on some of that stuff. So, Shady, we covered a lot. We've gone 34 minutes. I want to lay it out there for people. Next week, we would love to have a little segment here where we answer questions. So we're going to post all this on TikTok. We're going to post all this on YouTube. If you have a question you'd like answered by us on the show, drop it in the comments, drop it in on TikTok, drop it in the DMs, wherever. We would love to answer some questions next week. So please, please, please send those in. Shady, any last thoughts, buddy, before we get out of here today?
Man, just keep rolling Suns and Cavs, baby.
Hey, man, 10-0. You guys are right there behind us. Boston won tonight, so they still got that second overall seed. So yeah, it's been a fun NBA season, guys. One Piece is at a very high point right now. I think this is one of the best runs Oda's been on in a while. So it's a lot of exciting stuff. Shady, this has been episode 2, Straw Hat Power Ups. It's been a pleasure, man, and I cannot wait to do this again with you next week.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Also, can't let you get away with not acknowledging my Chargers over your Browns last week.
I don't. There was nothing really to talk about. We gave you guys 14 points. I don't know. You guys need a bigger pat on the back than 14 points. What do we
Terrible
do here?
breakdowns. Terrible breakdowns. Just what's wrong with you guys, man? What's wrong?
It's a bad football team, is what it is. It's a really bad football team. It's a team that's wasting a lot of money on a guy who is probably not going to be able to capable of playing again. It hurts. It hurts. Woo. It's like we are the Eustace Kid of the NFL.
Yikes! That's actually so accurate. I'm kind of sad that you told me that.
Like, hey, we showed up. We threw a couple punches in the playoffs last year. We got our asses kicked, and then now we're completely broken down, and we're getting beat up. Shanks is our schedule right now. We're just taking multiple hits. It's really bad. All right, guys, this has been the Cross Guild Chronicles episode 2. We will be back next week with episode 3. Cannot wait. Drop some questions for us. We will answer them on the show, and we will see you guys next time.